money, sex, and power. This is what I'm looking at for the past month. And please bear with me, I might not be so coherent. I'm coming off of a series of health challenges. They weren't life-threatening, but they were extremely annoying, and my brain is still not yet recovered from the whole thing. Hi, this is Liana, Holistic Intimacy Coach. Welcome back to my channel. Here, I help you get your orgasmic intimacy. Boy, talk about orgasmic when you're sick. So, the elections happened in the United States, and I've been watching those, probably like most of the people on this planet. We were all curious who was going to win. The person that won isn't somebody that I resonate with in any way. And I also stand with a lot of the political analysts in my country who look at the United States and at the person, Donald Trump, and we say that this man has no ideology. He is just somebody that is taking advantage of a wave of sympathy that he earned. He's not a politician in de facto. However, this is what media and the algorithm and influencers can do to society, and I'm not sure if this is the best thing possible. Secondly, in case you are curious, I am a moderate Democrat. That's what I relate with in terms of values. Moderate Democrat, which is not exactly a winning card right now, and I don't think they have. I'm not an American citizen. I was never in the United States. I can't vote there. If I could, I would still vote with the Democratic Party, but probably the Democratic Party that had the kind of priorities that a moderate democracy had several decades ago. It's not the case right now. I hope the Democratic Party will find its way back. Now, when I look at what's going on in the United States, I look at it with two perspectives. One, okay, that's where a lot of people draw inspiration from. And a lot of the online reverberations come from there. So I do want to know what is coming toward us. Secondly, geopolitics. Based on who was going to win, I kind of could figure out what their approach would be to the Russia-Ukraine war. In case you don't know, I live in Romania. Romania is a neighboring country to Ukraine. Romania is also a country that was in the former Soviet communist bloc. So yes, I am definitely, as a lot of people are in this region, interested who's going to win and what that person is going to do in terms of this conflict. So I'm looking at these two, and then I'm thinking, okay, money. How was money at play in the political elections? How is money at play anywhere in political elections? First of all, the elections themselves are a money-making machine, and there are now the right-wingers are looking at the Democratic Party's bills for the stars and all the other people that they use in their campaign and how much they were paid. They're not looking, or that information is not coming to me, at the money that was spent on the right-wing candidate. I mean, if we want to look at it in a balanced way, both parties or both sides should be exposed with the money that was invested, sums from who to where, and so on. That's how I do it. Put them side by side and look and analyze. Secondly, I look at it in terms of the tech industry and how they shifted gears, probably because they realize that a lot of people are lost in the algorithms. This is something that many political analysts are saying, and they're saying especially to podcasters that have given their platforms to support one of the candidates without questioning things that should have been questioned. But podcasters are not journalists, that needs to be said, so they don't have the mindset of a journalist. They don't challenge the people that they bring on. And here I'm looking at Jordan Peterson, who made a lot of materials on Donald Trump's, I keep getting the word musketeers. I know he didn't use that word, but I just keep, I don't know why I have this word in mind. Anyhow, he made that video, and I was like, okay, that's where I'm signing off. I used to like Jordan Peterson. I wasn't in full resonance with everything he said. When I saw that, I was like, this is no way. Yeah, no. Secondly, I'm looking at Joe Rogan. He never challenged Donald Trump on a lot of stuff. He should have. And there are a lot of other podcasters that have sided with Donald Trump, with Project 2025, which I don't think is necessarily a healthy one. I still haven't gathered enough information on it. From the stuff that I did gather, it's not something that I would relate with. And I never thought free speech America and democratic or free world United States of America would ever have that as their governance plan. Anyway, it's not yet confirmed that that's going to be the official governance plan, but yeah, that one's a shocker for me. Secondly, I'm looking at it from the perspective of sex. Okay, number one, the whole pressure on your body, my choice that went insane for a few days. Insane. And women declaring that they're going to go celibate for the next 4 years and talking about birth control pills, talking about rape acts. I had never heard of that invention until after Nick Fuentes went on with that huge expose of his that got him a lot of threats, rightfully so. I mean, the way he spoke there, I understand free speech, but when you freely speak with so much hatred, envy, frustration, condescendence, disgust, everything else that you want to put here in this negative emotional spectrum, that's what you're going to get. I mean, you reap what you sow, basically. And he reaped tenfold what he sowed. Then I'm looking at people divorcing, okay, women divorcing their husbands because they voted with somebody that is not going to let them have the right to choose for their bodies. Secondly, potentially the right for their education and the right to vote. There's a lot of discussion on the 19th Amendment, which granted women the right to vote in the United States of America. I heard discussions around it in the terms of when that amendment came through, half of the votes in my house were stolen from me. This was something that was said by a man. And yeah, I do not agree with that. First of all, if your house is divided in terms of political views, then perhaps that is something that you needed to consider in the beginning if politics was that important to you. Okay, so when you lay the foundation of a family, if political views are important to you, then those need to be clear up also. You don't need to end up in the space where, in an election, we see that we're on different sides and one party feels betrayed, stolen by the other, or so on. So that is a brutal discussion. I've actually surprisingly seen women in Western Europe, so not American citizens, not people that voted, but being shocked that their partners, they found out eventually that their partners were supporters of Trump. So a lot of people were hiding their support for this man, probably because of the shame of being labeled as racist, misogynist, whatever else you want to put here. And after the deed was done and the winner was announced, a lot of people started coming out. And now relationships are falling apart. So we're just talking about people that didn't vote, but so people that are with some resonance, the other one's dissonance towards this character, Donald Trump. I'm looking at it, of course, from the perspective of abortions. And in case you don't know, Romania was one of the countries that for several decades had a ban on abortions. Even if there was a problematic pregnancy, it could not be stopped until it was too late, which could also bring a health risk to the mother herself. Do you understand that? It happened in my family. I've also seen this in my country because there was a ban on abortions. Women were forced to carry pregnancies they did not want, and not necessarily because they were lustful and going left and right, but because they were subjected to abuse. And then what happened, those women, young girls sometimes, abandoned children that they didn't want, they couldn't raise on their own, and their families would disown them if they were to carry with those children, fatherless children, because rapists don't necessarily care about the woman that they impregnated. They don't necessarily care about the child, and that woman is left who wants to marry later on a woman that was raped of all things, and then she also had a baby. She was forced to carry it. So it basically, forbidding abortions leads to a slew of consequences, societal and economical, that you don't see them down the line. If you're looking at it just from the perspective of birth rate and that's it, poor and limited perspective to look at it from. And I've seen this, although I was a child, but I've seen this in my country, especially hearing conversations around it from women in my family, women in the neighborhood, women in my city, women in villages whenever I'd go to the countryside, and so on. It was not easy. I'm looking at that, and this is the last thing that I would have expected from United States of America, who calls itself the free world. And then in terms of power, well, I look at it, just like I said in the beginning, who's going to win and how they're going to position themselves in relation to the conflict that is still going on, the war, basically, Russia, Ukraine. Romania is next door to Ukraine. In terms of national security, of course I'm going to look at it. Of course I care. Power, for a lot of people, it's influence. And when you're talking about the main players on the geopolitical, economical, and even nuclear markets, you're going to look at where the pieces land. I try to stay calm when it comes to that one. The only thing that I'm praying is that none of these ruling dudes, that's what I call them, who have a lot of issues. I wish Elon Musk would just take them all to freaking Mars and let them have their fights there. Because the rest of us here don't necessarily care about their fights for power, for influence, their whatever psychoses, especially with Vladimir Putin, whatever the heck is going on in that man's mind. I wish somebody flew him on Mars with a few other fine dudes from North Korea, China, United States, Iran, Hamas, not even Palestine, just Hamas and Hezbollah and whatever other people that have issues here and want to fight and bicker and kill others. And they could just kill themselves on a different planet and let the rest of the world live here, because we got enough problems as it is. Then there's the discussion, still in the sphere of influence, on climate change. And I've actually seen this material, which I really enjoyed, from Great Britain. There was a man probably from my generation or older. I'm born in the early 80s. I think this guy was also from my generation. And he was speaking to a college with people now in their teens, late teens, early 20s, about how, at least in Great Britain, there is climate phobia, and people really want to save climate and prevent climate change from going even worse. And this man was saying, Great Britain has a total impact on climate change of 2% in terms of CO2 emissions. That's the only thing that he was looking at. I think climate change is way more than just CO2, but anyway, for the sake of this discussion, I'm going to carry on. He said, I know you want to change it. No matter what you do here, the problem is where? In China, in India, in Latin America. So where the greater numbers and poorer population lives, who's barely surviving, and they would simply want to have enough food so they don't suffer from malnutrition, enough food to feed their children, enough energy and resources to take them through education. They don't care about climate change. You in Great Britain here can care as much as you want. People in China and whoever's ruling China is not going to worry about it because they have different struggles at hand, at immediate hand. So when you're talking about influence, yeah, the advanced world, a lot of them former colonialist worlds that built their fortune on exploiting other countries, that is not news here. They're not struggling right now to survive, so they can care about or they can think about climate change. Other worlds haven't surpassed survival, so they don't have the mind space and the energy to worry about climate change. They're just surviving, and that's what everybody knows, even in my country. The poorer communities are the highly polluting ones because they have to survive, and the means that they use are not necessarily environmentally protective. Yeah, and in terms of influence, when you're looking at just that, and why do I care about this one? Well, if I want to see myself living a healthy life, fulfilled life, hopefully, then I'm going to need clean air, clean water, clean soil, healthy food, and economical resources to do that. We're not yet in the place where we're seeing eco wars, okay? Ecological wars, wars for resources. We're not yet in that space. It's not necessarily a distant reality from us, sadly. So I do look at all of these, me, the intimacy coach. Did I, as I was being sick and the world was burning intensely around me, figuratively speaking, did I even have the time to think of intimacy? Of course I did. Of course I did. As a sapiosexual, of course I think about that. And I do believe that this is something that I was doing every single day. At the end of the day, I shut down the laptop, I turned off my Wi-Fi, I put just music on my cell phone that was on airplane mode, and I did whatever my body allowed me, because at a certain point I couldn't even breathe because my air pathways were just, my nostrils were stinging me, my throat was stinging me. It was quite annoying to breathe sometimes. So I tried to calm myself down, and I tried to the best of my abilities to bring myself at least in a relaxed state, although it was not painless state. It was just relaxed. You know, when somebody's sick, suffering is not attractive, sickness is not attractive. Gotta say it. It's really, really hard to be around somebody who is in suffering or in sickness. It is. What is my takeaway in terms of money, sex, and power? Whatever's going on out there in terms of money, you know, the big business games and the big corporate money, governmental money, where they go and who's trying to shift whose perspective, it's still important to keep your solid foundation in terms of work. I don't think that one's going to be affected too soon. That's one. In terms of sex, which pleasure, you know, it isn't easy to feel sexy when a lot of tension is going on around you. So my takeaway from that one, if you really must be informed because you want to be informed, you want to know what planet you're living on, great. Make it a priority to also disconnect from all that ugly noise, because it's ugly what is going on right now. And bring yourself back to your body, to your pleasure, to the best of your abilities, especially when you're sick, okay? And in terms of power, influence, the person that has power over themselves is the person that has the ability to ask questions about, where is this going? Am I seeing this as objectively as possible for me? And am I in the wrong in any way? Or where am I in the right, if I am? Okay? Do not allow others' influence to come over you, even if sometimes that is really hard to do. Do not allow it, because the biggest power that you have is your free mind, critical thinking, and objectivity. Okay? That one's also important in relationships, by the way. Very important. As important as empathy, as understanding, as compassion, as genuine love, and as team play. Absolutely. So I'm going to leave you guys here because my voice is already, it's getting worse. Otherwise, if you want to support me, remember that I have my Patreon account. It's of great importance to me right now, especially when I was sick, to have that support going for me. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.